Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody here to our March 25th council meeting. I will now officially call the meeting to order and the time is 1 p.m. To start with, we'll begin with our land acknowledgement and a moment of silent reflection. I now ask members to declare any pecuniary interest before council if they have any. Or at the time of the discussion. I understand Councillor Walsh does have one to declare and will leave the room during discussions. May I get a motion of approval of today's agenda that's circulated and or amended? Councillor Warburton.
As circulated.
Circulated and Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? Motion's carried. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the regular meeting and public meeting minutes on March 11th as presented or amended. As presented. As presented. Seconder, Councillor Hodge-Greaves. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from the minutes? None. Moving on to the consent agendas, we have correspondence items C1 through C5. Staff reports R1 and R2 and Business Advisory Committee meeting minutes of Cultural and Heritage Committee meetings. We have somebody to approve as circulated and or amended. Councillor War.
C4 with, yes, with a comment on C4, thank you for you.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Burt.
With a comment, going to C3, thank you.
Going to C3. All right, we'll start off with C3, going down through.
Okay, so no, I just wanted to kind of pull this out if anybody from the public is looking for more information. This is a really pretty incredible, I believe it's about a 40-page document about trade and tariff information from FCM, and it's very detailed, talks about trade balances, imbalances, there's everything from tariffs to the auto sector, to energy, to critical minerals, to aerospace, ag, and it goes on, steel, aluminum. And I'm just wondering, is that something that, you know, we can have a link to that on the website for our business community? Because I think it's important. It's probably one of the best documents I've seen on the whole thing. And it takes a little bit of reading, but I think it's great. I think it's a great document. So
You got that written down?
thank you.
Very good. Councillor War.
Yes, just a comment on C4 and maybe some input from the mayor, deputy mayor, about the concerns with the modifications of the Peterborough County official plan from March 5th. I know that there's been a couple meetings since then. I just wondered where that stands with the official plan.
You want to start? Yeah?
Sure. Yeah, it will be coming back. Any of the comments received will all be coming together and coming back. Some of the concerns that were brought forward, at the March 5th meeting, a lot of those issues had already been dealt with, but, anyhow, everything will be coming back and then coming back out, and hopefully then heading back off to the ministry
So
2.5 years after it was originally submitted. And hopefully, instead of being in, well, not really in limbo, because we're still using the old official plan, but hopefully at some point in 2025, it will get passed. But,
there was quite a few words that they wanted tweaked in it.
yeah, a lot of it was wording. And of course, changing from provincial, going to provincial policy statement from, it was a word in there that all had to be changed in the
Changed
whole
in the whole-
document. So a lot of it was wording. So.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Councillor Walsh?
I apologize, I should have said this earlier or messaged you earlier. Adam, it's for you. It's just regarding the acting, the Norwood wastewater treatment facility. In the conclusion, you mentioned that the total ammonia nitrogen as it was exceeded in April, May, basically due to high flow and low temp. So they're kind of environmental controls outside of our control, but is there anything that we could be doing more that would potentially not have that happen?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So learning from last year, our flows have increased substantially this past week, 2 weeks. So we've changed our operating kind of procedure to a different system type and
Okay,
get ahead of the.
Okay. awesome. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Delegations, we have representatives here from the Norwood Lions Club with us today, and Councillor Walsh will be leaving, and Michael Heffernan and Dave Baird, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council. We were here about a year and a half ago, looking at doing some renovations, very needed renovations for the town hall bar. It's taken a while to get to this stage where we can finally find out exactly what has to be done. We've sent the plans away and got them back, and we sent them to you people. And we're just looking at, last time we were here, the council said that the budget was already passed, so we weren't able to help out. So, want to get in before the budget was passed this year and seeing if the town hall or the township would help with the town hall renovations. I know there's a broad section there of monies. What we're looking for, only because still waiting for cost of roll-up doors and floors, and we don't know what we're gonna get into with the plumbing and the wiring until we get the walls open. But we're looking for council to hopefully help the Lions Club with half of the amount of what we're looking at to redo we've purchased ourselves the new cooler to go in there, so it's more money's helping out where we haven't allotted for the different other things that we do in the town as well, so.
Questions, councillors? Deputy Member?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Mike. So you're thinking the maximum is 35, that's kind of the
Yeah.
ceiling, and
Yeah.
you're looking for half of that at some point. Okay, all right, just to clarify.
Yeah.
I like the anywhere from 10. 10 is nice.
But until we know the monies
Yeah,
and
yeah, okay,
we're hoping that we do have contractors in the Lions Club that will give us a bit of a deal on, I mean, we can't expect any contractor work for free, but they will give us a deal on their hourly rates where we can go ahead and do the work in-house with people that are professionals, with plumbers, electricians and all that good stuff as well.
okay, thanks, I just wanted that clarification.
Just one question, Mike, and is that just one quote you have, or did you just have other quotes?
That's the only quote that we had.
Okay. Going forward. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you again for your presentation. I just wanted to ask, if this was to go forward, what would the potential timeline look like for the rip down, like, for other events that may be booked in, like, what would that look like for
we're still hoping that we can run everything the way that we have. If there's, I know we've got stuff booked in April, so we're gonna probably look at getting everything ready to go, and then when that one is done, we haven't got anything until late May. Both in the hall, and anything that we're doing would stay inside the bar area, like if we had material or something like that, it would be brought, and we'd do at the time what we have with what we have. The biggest thing is the tear out. And it's not a huge thing, because the one wall that we're taking out is only a thin 2x2 wall on the stage. It's more moving the, cutting part of where the stage is, that's not used. Cutting that to bring up the ceiling to the same height as the bar is now. So it's not like there's major renovations to be done. I mean, whoever built the hall knew what they were doing at the time, because it's built like a barn. We went up in the attic, and the beams go from corner to corner, so you can take out every wall in there. And not have any problem with the stage or anything like that. So somebody way back when knew what they were doing.
Right.
As opposed to now.
Any further comments? All right, thank you very much for your presentation, Michael.
Yeah.
So we have a recommended resolution that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this presentation for information. And further, the council provides direction to staff on the next steps. And the next steps will most likely be discussed when we're discussing the budget, just so everyone knows. Now the mover of that motion, Councillor Hodge Greaves, second by Deputy Mayor Burke. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Sorry, do we have something that can take back to the line stuff on a ballpark of when that may be?
COL,
So through you, Mayor, our next budget meeting is scheduled for this Friday. So cross my fingers as I say this, not to jinx us, but we're hoping that we'll be pretty close to having a final budget right after that meeting.
Okay.
So I would definitely say we should be able to follow up in the first part of April, which seems like it should be a long way away, but really isn't that.
No, it's not.
No.
It's next week. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, and Councillor Walsh, you want to?
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Walsh resumes, we'll be moving on to staff reports, and the first one will be Jeff Walden, Manager of Public Works.
Glasses, I left them in the car. My glasses, I remember that I left them in the car.
Usually don't then. You see?
Fine.
I'm fine.
All right, Jeff, where's yours?
Right, thanks, Mayor and Council. Yeah, just kind of our annual gravel crushing tender. We opened it last week, March 17th. We did invite 4 contractors to bid. 3 of them replied back with their workloads and they were unable to bid on it. But they did appreciate the offer. Unfortunately, we did only receive the 1 bid. It's always nice to have some competition just to see the numbers. And it's not a bad thing, but just to make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck. But anyways, Drain Brothers was a successful bidder, $7.90 per ton for both parts of the tender. We had an item in there for capital works, and as well as just our annual gravel program. Same price per ton, no matter what they're doing. So as you can see, we focused on the roads north of the highway just to get our program going again. As I kind of we touched on it, I think the last council meeting. We used to have a box system set up where we kind of rotate around the township, and every 4 years kind of roads get gravel. So it's kind of gone by the wayside. So we want to try to get that going again, and the north is a nice complement. I did touch on in the report a little bit just about increasing our depth that we're going to be adding, just to try to mitigate some of the slop that we're seeing and try to get that covered up and get that road structure back. So just how we'll do that, we typically try to get 100 meters per spread of the hoppers. So once we find their speed, we might set it at 75 to 60 meters per spread, which will just give an extra layer, and it'll be 2 spreads wide, where sometimes we only do one out in the middle. So we're gonna do two spreads wide, a little slower just to get some depth and again, try to get that aggregate structure built back up on those roads. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
I'll start off with a couple of questions. We're using our pit that we're crushing from, so it's our material.
Correct, yeah. Mayor, I think that about 5 years ago, the tonnage price was about $5.50 per ton, so it hasn't gone up
No,
ridiculously. For an example, if we were purchasing that gravel, it would be probably $14 to $15 a ton delivered from an outside source. So it is a significant savings to have our own aggregate, that's for sure.
and I do know it's hard to tell when you're looking at our pile of gravel that we have crushed out there. Is there any chance that there will be extra crush to add to that stockpile for other roads that we'll be working on in the year that come up?
Yep, through Mayor, we do have a significant stockpile now, but we do have plans for that in the spring, so we'll see. Again, these are desktop calculations for tonnage, and I think we're gonna have a bit of a surplus in the finances and, from what I've seen, till we actually get the number per ton, and then, like I said, I just figure out 9 times width times height to what we're gonna use.
Right,
With the number provided from the contractor, I think we are gonna have a surplus, and we can have that conversation while we're on site to maybe top up our stockpile. At ballpark right now, it's to be $10,000 or $12,000, we might have a surplus, so we'll use that for a stockpile.
okay. Deputy Member,
Thank you, through the mayor. I'm just wondering, we're using our own gravel. Does that need to be tested? Like just to check for levels of clay? Like, does that go to SGS, for example, and get tested for certain things
Yeah.
at any time?
Through your mayor, I always do, I let them get started and I do a unannounced visit and grab a sample, just so they
Okay.
can't make a separate pile. And it's in the,
Good idea.
they'll make a sample pile that is to a spec, so I'll stop it unannounced and grab a sample and run it into, oh, it's not, SGS. They just, I forget. the name of them.
Canadian?
GHD.
Oh,
GHD. So we run it in there and do a sieve test to make sure it meets the NTO spec for gravel
Okay.
and go from there. And then if we ask for the results to be given back as quickly as possible while they're on site, so we can tell them to adjust
Mhm.
if something's going. So
Okay. And can I? have one
yes, go
follow-up?
ahead.
Just on that, and I hadn't thought of it till you started speaking, has there been any tests done or calculations done as to how many years we have left of crushing, the average amount that we crush in a year, how many years we have left in that pit?
through you, Mayor, I haven't in my time, even previously, haven't done any boreholes. So the road tour that we discussed, I'd love to stop in there. It's easier to explain on site. So
Mhm.
when you go into our pit, the northernmost limit, there's another floor
Okay,
that's down. So right now, we're on the top floor that's almost up to fourth. I had the license amended last fall. We can go right to the fourth because you're supposed to have a 100-foot setback from property lines. You can't mine.
okay,
So we had our license and plan amended that we can mine right to the fourth and harvest that aggregate. And then, so we've got a little extra room there. That's probably 3 to 4 years where we are now, and then we'll go back and start on the next floor and come through. So it'll outlive me as long as the aggregate's good, and it is the.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
What I wanted to
Yeah.
hope you live a long life.
Yes. I don't know if it'll be something wrong.
Councillor Ward?
Sure, that's a good measure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I see that you highlighted, number 25 in yellow about the, possible extension, like it's a 1-year extension, you have it highlighted.
Yeah.
So because the gravel prices have been so stable, is there an advantage to maybe extend that to 26 or 27, like a 3-year term? This is just 1 year, right? Is what it is. I wasn't sure if that could be negotiated now when the price is not bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think through merit, we usually revisit it and usually it's, in the tender, it usually goes up maybe 10 cents a year if it's included in the tender. But I mean, if you would like a wording change in the contract, I mean, that's if you would.
No,
like
I
to
just
extend
saw that it was highlighted. I just wondered
Yeah.
if there was any advantage, but if it's only 10, it's not, like, I was just thinking to keep the
Well,
prices stable for the next.
I should
you know.
say through merit, that's usually when you do the extensions, they usually when if it's highlighted in there that we've got a possibility of 1 year, they'll usually just do that. But if you go to market again, it could come back higher. So it's not a bad thing to extend it for maybe an extra 2 years if you wish, sort of thing. And I always like those two, and I try to do that even in the surface treatment. We'll see, I do usually a 3-year. It just, A, it saves the tender. And then B, if you get a contractor that you're happy with, you're not playing Russian roulette, so to speak, every year of going to market. So it's, there's a couple of reasons why we do that. So
I guess that would be a discussion for the rest of council. That I think that it's wise to do something like that. If it, as you said, only one tender, it saves staff time because you're only doing one tender for a certain year, as long as you're happy with the person providing.
oh, absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. In reference to the calcium chloride, that is done through the county tender, paying for that one?
Yep, through
And,
there.
and do you know how much you used from last, like, can you still use last year's surplus supply, or is it new every year? Do we have to do that one again?
Through Mayor, I think they do a 3-year. I think they do a multi-year, and then they just extend it. Usually it's a CPI increase every year. It's usually 1 or 2% they'll add on. Unless I think, excuse me, 3 years ago, that the fuel surcharge, of course, coming out of the COVID, they had asked to have this fuel surcharge added on top of the CPI, which then it never left. It's unfortunately, so, but no, that's a multi-year through the county as well. I went through road by road, preparing the budget, and I was able to reduce the calcium a little bit, from what we saw last year. I think last year was 80 some thousand. We're down a little bit this year, just with the exact, because you want to leave yourself too short, because if you need to touch up in August, if it's dusty or something like that, so. But I think there's a reduction in the budget this year.
Councillor Walsh.
I just will add my 2 cents into, for you, Mary, and you've actually answered one of my questions around the clay. So I like the idea that you're not just testing, a test file at the gravel pit, you're actually testing it out on the road. So love that idea. And I think the second point I had highlighted was around the same point that Councillor Rohr brought up is, if we have that opportunity to lock in for 2-3 years, should we be as a community considering that in the contract, that we lock in that price for at least 2 or all 3 years?
Do you want to comment on it, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. I through you, Mayor. I think it would be a CPI increase, so it would be 1% every year that we work for. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing to do a multi. We included 1, but I mean, if we wanted to do 3, that's easy enough. I think voting. Yeah.
Okay. We'll all read the motion, and that can be amended.
Sorry, we would have to amend the motion.
Right. Okay. So the motion that is read is that council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information, and further that the council directs staff to enter into agreement with Drain Brothers Excavating to complete the 2025 gravel crushing program as specific within the tender document, including the agreement option to be amended to 2 to 3 year deal with
Yeah, that would.
whatever you can work out with drains.
Yeah, for sure. And then if we're not happy with it, like if, in year 2 and all of a sudden they want a massive increase, then you just go back and market.
Go ahead, CAO.
Through Mayor, well, I would suggest maybe some wording that said investigate,
Okay,
and that way, if it comes back and it's appropriate, Jeff could bring a report back and say, this is what they have proposed. Or if it's, or if you want to give them a range, if it's 1% each year, you are already good with that.
good with 1%.
Something like that. If it's more than that, then Jeff could come back and talk about that.
That makes sense.
Sorry,
Councillor War.
I would be happy to add in the 1% so that they have an average to go by that you don't want to exceed.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry, I think just having a word in there, negotiate, that was gonna be my addition, wherever that would fit, Melanie.
okay, so I have Councillor War has moved it. Correct? Seconder, Councillor Walsh. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Jeff, and I'll let you continue on with R4.
Great, thank you. Through you, Mayor. We've been kicking this one down the action list for a little while since my return, and we took a bit of a different approach. As on the action list, it was identified as a ditching plan. We just thought a worded report to kind of give us some direction and show our priorities through council will be better. I think where I struggle with is our priorities in the plan would be to follow the surface treatment plan along. So it didn't make sense to me to have another plan that kind of followed the surface treatment plan. So just a brief report to kind of show the direction that we'll be going in And basically, yeah, it does follow the surface treatment plan that we amended. Where my ultimate goal is to get that leapfrog effect, like I called it in the report, just to try to get your ditching and your culverts and all the earthworks done in 1 year and then do your surface treatment in May or June the following year. So that's where we're trying to get back to sort of thing. So I mean, this year, of course, it is a heavy year to get there. You'll see we've got the 8th line. The ditching on the 7th line is just to clean it out and touch up a few spots because it's in relatively good shape. The 8th line is pretty heavy. But then to get the 2026 projects, the surface treatment projects done, we'd like to get that done this year as well. So this year would be a heavy year. Just trying to get, again, that leapfrog. So next year, those surface treatment projects will be ready to go or when they come, no matter which way they fall. If that makes sense, just to try to get there. It's really nice to get that surface treatment down in May or June, if at all possible. It's not the end of the world if it happens in August or September, but it's just ideal. And then the traffic gets the summer heat on it and it shoves all the aggregate in while it's warm. And, so that's the goal. So, 2025 is a heavy year just to try to get ahead and back on track and follow the surface treatment plan. So the 25, 26, 27, basically is the surface treatment plan. You'll see the 26 ditching projects would be the 27 surface treatment plan, just to try to get ahead again. I did add some of the other roads that are just notorious problems for us, that we will try to mitigate a lot of the drainage issues while we're there. You know, if we're ditching out at the west end, we would try to touch off on camera line and a few of those couple spots just while we're there and when we fill and have dump sites established and everything else. So you can't go wrong with ditching. I didn't, again, with the plan, plans are driven financially, and it's nice to see those financial numbers. Ditching is pretty much absorbed by the operational budget. There's not a great deal of cost, just fuel, machine time, and wages. So not a bunch of huge costs that you want to see, material costs and everything else with it. So again, that's why we kind of veered from a plan and just put it as a report on priorities. So again, we were going to put it in the consent agenda, but we thought maybe a conversation might be wanted if there was any questions.
I like this approach. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, thanks very much, Jeff. And again, what I've learned over 6 years being on council is this is the most important part of road maintenance. It's gotta get the ditching right to begin with. Yeah. And then, as you said, if we have the ditching and the culverts done, the following year, early in the year, you can put your surface treatment down. Let it get pounded all summer, not pounded, but like really built in.
Exactly.
Make sure we're in a good shape versus trying to pave or surface treat in August and September where it's rainy or something. So I really do like the approach and like the idea that we're always working 1 year in advance.
Step ahead,
on
yeah.
Surface treatment, exactly.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chief Mayor. Thank you very much for the report, Jeff. Makes complete sense. I think it's a good plan moving forward. Just on the excess soils. So all of those that you dig out, do they get taken back to the pit? And is there a limit on how much we can keep with those new regulations? I just kind of wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yep, no, through you, Mayor. There's no limit if we're trying to keep it for reuse
Okay.
or whatever our plans are. There is a minimum, like a small ditching job, you don't have to really follow the reg as much where you're safe to go to a farm or just a dump site still. It's under 400 cubic meters. I think we don't really have to worry about as much. But if you're on those big stretches, we would store it at the pit or probably the landfill or something like that. With the option to reuse it and try to come into a fill job somewhere that we could use it, or if it's decent organics that we could have it screened potentially for
Right.
topsoils or something like that. But,
Okay, thank you.
no, there's no max.
Okay, good.
Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. A little ways out, so 2027, it's so the Cameron line for, just as a question to you. So that's a shared road, right, with OSM?
Yep.
So for the ditching priorities, would that be a combined effort with OSM, like to try to get that whole road done at the same time? Because you have it north of County Road 2. So like, I know we plow to a certain part and then OSM takes over, like what would be the shared portions of that road?
Through you, Mayor, the boundary agreement is written from Elmhurst lines, Elmer's line around this road. We maintain pretty much any maintenance or anything is our responsibility from
Birds.
there south, yeah. And OSM maintains any maintenance or anything from there north, so that's how it is. So anything that's like maintenance with ditching, it would be all on us. Anything that's a big capital expenditure, like in the boundary agreement, anything that's a capital expenditure, like surface treatment on Birdsall's.
Yeah.
That's a shared effort. We did years ago identify the wharf. They didn't really want to have anything to do with the wharf, but we kind of held their feet to the fire and again, I think it's identified if there's a certain expenditure on the wharf, then they will cost share on that as well.
And they do.
And just to follow up if I may, the reason I'm asking this is because the Westwood pit, I'll call it that, I'm not sure what the current name is. Because they go now across from the autonomy boundary line, they go across Cameron line and over, and it really does take a toll on that part of the road. So I was just wondering, like, they're obviously, you know, that pit is now operating almost fully from autonomy, right? They're coming across the boundary. So I was just wondering any more cost sharing options that may be available in the future. Just throwing it out there.
Through there, it doesn't hurt, and those are kickers because they do get a royalty from that aggregate, and then our roads take the use.
Yes.
It's the same as even drains. I mean, everything's in Eurogummer,
Yeah.
they get the royalties and we get the abuse, so I think,
Yes.
but I guess it doesn't hurt to have a conversation if there is any, if they're willing to
I
help.
just thought that section is, it can get pretty rough in there.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
I mean, even down to the fact that if they supplied a couple tandems, if we were moving or something to work together on it, that's an easy conversation for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your report, Jeff. Council, may I get a motion to accept this for information? Councillor Hodge Greaves, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Jeff. Again, we'll move along to R5, Mr. Bidwell, Manager, Community Center, Parks and Facilities.
Thank you, through your mayor. So this report, that I'm about to present is, for ice rental season proposed extension for the community center. Recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding the possible extension of the 2024-2025 ice rental season at the community center. And further, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood provides direction to staff on which options proceed. So a little background. Previous years, the ice has been removed here, either end of April or first part of May. And then it's removed for the summer season. During this period, in previous years, various hockey tryouts have included, which includes AAA, AA boys and girls. Have happened in the spring, and then your tiered centers, which are your smaller hometown centers, which used to be called rep centers. Typically have done their tryouts in the fall. And then local league, which is your more house league, second entry teams have been done after that. And they typically in the past have been done after Labor Day in September. So the 2025-2026 OHA season, the OHA decided to implement a new rule for open borders from U9 all the way to U21. Previously, U9 was called novice, U21 is juvenile, for the people that maybe still use the older terms. So what this means, previously, if you lived within Asphodel-Norwood, you had to try out for the Norwood Hornets, unless you came up with a valid reason or live with your grandparents that lived in a different township. Now what this new rule means is now if you live in Asphodel-Norwood and you want to try out in Tweed, you want to try out in Ennismore, Otonabee, Camelford, you're free to do that. So obviously, the OHA tends to sometimes make decisions without providing all the information. So kind of this comes out, everyone's kind of like, what does this mean? There's now been a little more information that's been released about it. But the biggest thing is the introduction to open borders have led many minor hockey organizations to rethink their approach to when to schedule trials. Again, previously, it could be mandated that you couldn't start before Labor Day. Now they're able to start as of early as May 3rd. So again, smaller towns, maybe smaller centers pull their ice at the end of March, therefore they can't do small trials. I know staff have looked into this. The division Norwood plays in, I believe everyone other than the Center Hastings Grizzlies and the Tweed Hawks are doing spring trials. Those two are doing fall. Center Hastings mainly due to the fact that Marmor had no ice this year. So the current rental ice schedule, We currently, our last day, the Key Wolverines have the ice rink at 1 o'clock on Saturday, May 3rd. And then staff would currently be proposing removing the ice the rest of the Saturday, finishing Sunday morning. So also throughout this new approach, we have contacted Trent Hills, so they have a new Sunny Life Sport and Wellness Center. So originally they were gonna pull their ice April 13th. Minor hockey and the junior Cs went to council, proposed, they're now extending to May 16th. We're also, I listed here some, so I'll quickly touch on these, some or all of these teams. So for example, Kelford Colts, all their tryouts are in Kelford. Duro has only, I believe, 10 to 12 hours. Brighton has their tryouts in Kelford, Wellington, and Coburg. Otonabee is currently splitting right now between Camelford and Miskin and Peterborough. And the Key Wolverines, they only have about 4 hours. That's more their second entry teams. Their first entry teams are committed to here, so it's not like they're leaving. That's more of their second entry teams, because the girls hockey, it's common for all their teams to be picked in the spring versus the fall. So in addition, to us being in as of till May 3rd or longer, and Camelford, Peterborough, Miskin Law, and Coburg Community Center are the only two other facilities within our kind of region. Like Minden is, but that's a little bit of a reach. Wellington's a little bit of a reach. So ball hockey, I'll quickly touch on too. So ball hockey's operated the previous 2 years. They operated an 8-week program. The first year, I believe they only used 2 nights a week. Last year, they used 3. This year, originally in our discussions, they wanted 5. We proposed 4, simple for the fact that we don't want our staff being tied up 5 times. So Tuesdays, for example, we told them they couldn't have. That allows our staff to be able to go out and do stuff at other parks instead of if someone's here, they have to be here. Ball hockey came back to us since we agreed before and said they now only need 3 due to one of their leagues on Wednesday nights not having enough interest. So they would currently be using three days this year from May 5th, finishing at the end of June. So staff would like to present 2 options. So option 1, they do not extend the ice season. We maintain Saturday, May 3rd as the last day. Ball hockey remains on schedule as May 5th. Or option 2, we extend the ice rental season until Saturday, May 10th. We remove the ice the 10th and 11th. Inform ball hockey that it's delayed a week and their new start date will be March 12th or May 12th. Staff have currently not reached out to ball hockey about this. We also in the past, they have due to showcase. So the Friday of showcase weekend, they typically don't have the facility because we set it up, as well as the civic or the May 2-4 Monday, they don't have. So in the past, there's been a couple of weeks where ball hockey has been twice per week to accommodate their schedule. The other alternative is provided option 2 passes. We could go out to them and they could, if they're willing to extend the season. So that first kind of week school wasn't happening. Before time is available if they chose to do that. So financial implications. So revenue, minor hockey would have a guaranteed 21 hours. The 134 rate we implemented last year as of, once you get to April, all rentals, minor hockey or outside organization pay a little more due to the fact that it costs a little more to operate this place. Public skating, we put in 2. There could be a chance for more, but we didn't feel that we didn't want to commit to 10, and the next thing you know, we come back and say, ooh, we only got 1, and now we lost money. Other ice rentals, 4 hours, same thing, kind of 4 to be safe, knowing that I think we're very confident in getting that. Obviously, we'll do our best to make sure every maximum hour we can try to rent. And then the potential ball hockey loss of a week. So on that, if they just made their season 7 weeks, we would lose this 490. If they extended a week, or started playing twice a week to make up for the week they lost, that 490 would still come back to us and there'd be no loss from ball hockey. Expenses, so staff wages, our operator wage would be the only one because whether we had ice or not, we still have a summer student if there was ball hockey. So we feel the attendance wage based off the amount of time they'd be scheduled to work offsets, whether it's attendant because we have ice or whether it was a summer student with no ice. And on that, what we used is, we used the average of our 3 operators here, took their average salary and punched in the amount of hours, we got to that number. For hydro heated water, where we came up with those numbers is, we got the numbers from April of 2024. We then divided by 4 to get the average week cost. And then what we did is, again, to be on the high end, safe end, we factored 75% of the cost being to the ice land. Whether that is true or whether it's a little lower, we didn't want to operate it again 25% and then come back in and be like, ooh, it costs a little more for them.
Right.
So that's where we got those numbers. Obviously, again, just so we're being transparent, is the building would not be closed if we don't extend the ice. So yes, some of these numbers might be down a little, but if we still have ball hockey, the lights are on. We still have people renting them on, we still have the fitness center, we still have the lobby. So the revenue came out at just over 3,600, the total expenses came in just over 34. On that too, what we estimated for our staff wages, if we were to pick up additional hours, the wages wouldn't increase. If on some days we didn't pick up as many as we had, that number could actually be reduced, because all we would do is shorten the time frame for our staff's schedule. So in conclusion, staff value our partnerships with user groups and would be in favor of the extension, but are willing to implement whatever decision council recommends. And now, if anyone has questions,
Just a couple comments, Seamus. I think at this time of year, it's easier on the plant. I don't know, I'm not an ice maker. But to keep it running an extra week, as starting up one in September when the temperatures are gonna be a little warmer than what they are right now. I don't know if that's
so
correct.
through your mayor, correct, a lot of it based off the temperature, but in May, you're probably looking like on a really good May day, if it's in the mid-teens, that's awesome. And at night, it tends to probably back to single digits. Where end of August, you could be in the 40s. I know 2 years ago, we were fortunate enough, we were in time, but that first week kids went back to school. It was the heat wave. Our splash pad was packed with school trips the first week of school. So yes, temperature wise in August, you're probably looking mid-teens to 20s on the low end. And at night, it's probably still getting down to mid-teens versus that May at nights, depending on the weather, but most nights probably are gonna be 10, 12 or colder than that. On that too, another option is, if this was in favor, maybe we make the decision now is, hey, we're doing spring trials, maybe in the fall. We hold our ice out a week. So in the past, this past year, we turned our plant on August 13th. Typically, we give ourselves about 2 weeks. That's being generous, but that's also for the fact that our staff here still have to do other stuff. If you look at a rink in Peterborough, for example, they can put it in 3 days, 4 days, but that's because their staff literally just put the ice in. So we still are doing stuff outside, still cutting grass, still doing other tasks. Every year, we've made an attempt to try to do as fast as we can, but again, no day goes as planned, right? You plan, oh, hey, there's a complaint at Asphodel Park, now we're going to deal with it. On that too, so and then this past year, the Tuesday leading into the last week before kids went back to school is when the ice was right. If they do spring trials, maybe again, it's, hey, you know what, we're not gonna be in until the day the kids go back to school, so maybe it is a extend for a week, but delay for a week, so there is that option. I know we had someone today inquire about potential August ice, so I just told them, we don't know until this decision's made, and maybe it's, hey, maybe it's longer than the first Tuesday go back, maybe it's the following weekend, so there is wiggle room there potentially to, hey, yes, we're incurring costs of that for a week, but we're gonna also save them in the fall by a week, if council and that team, right?
Deputy Member,
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the report, Seamus. I did have some, minor sports people reach out to me and because my question to you was going to be, why can't you just do the tryouts a week? But understanding from the OMHA, no, that's not the way it goes. There's a schedule. It has to be followed and that can happen.
So, through your mayor, correct, so. It'd be Easter Saturday, which again, the OHA doesn't factor into Easter, but yes, Easter Saturday, U9, U11, U13. Start their tryouts for AAA for a week. They go Saturday to Friday. U15, U18 would start Easter Monday. And then it's just a trickle down, so that first Saturday is AAA. The next Saturday, AA could start, the next Saturday, single A and your tier team, so yes, it's not possible to be like, hey, we're gonna run Easter weekend. Cause Norwood's probably would reap a worse repercussion for that, plus you wouldn't wanna do that, cause potentially Norwood could have some kids that are trying out for AAA or AA before that.
Yeah, can I just follow
one
up?
more?
Yeah, so that makes sense, which makes it really tricky for smaller centers. Like, I'm sorry, but any smaller centers who's used to taking their ice out early, I think this is a little ridiculous, but again, OMHA and the powers that be don't take small centers into consideration, so it's a little frustrating. When you look at the revenue expenses, it's kind of a wash, you kind of think it's fairly even. And yeah, like I am in favor, obviously these kids need their tryouts, makes more sense to do it now than start up the plant in August, and I would say, when we're talking about budget, we said, let's tighten up that ice time, and like, I don't know that the ice has to be in by Labor Day weekend, like, let's move it back, so maybe we find a balance, that's my thing. And, it gets in the middle of September or something, because I don't know, September is a hot month. September is very
Yes.
hot, so that's kind of the way I'm leaning. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Counselor Ward.
Thank you, through the mayor, and thank you for answering some of my questions earlier today, because my one concern was, okay, you have a ball hockey league and that's summer revenue, and you don't want to lose them by potentially going, oh, we haven't discussed this, but you gave some other options that they're able to make up those dates. And I'm also aligned with, what Deputy Mayor Burt said, tightening up the timeline in the fall, moving it to maybe a better spot, because it is harder to make ice, as you said, when it's, 30 degrees Celsius out, like it's hard to make ice at that time. So extending it 1 week, keeping all of the minor sports, the hockey teams, like, do we know how many hockey teams need to do tryouts in Norwood then?
So through your mayor, they'd have U9, U11, U13, hopefully U15 and U18.
So
there's-
one team.
Correct, and you're only one, and on that too, in the fall, when we put our ice in, we've had the demand from the other centers.
Yeah.
Maybe again, they're all gonna be in the same boat, if they're all doing spring trials, they don't need to be starting, obviously, again, the OMHA sets a date typically where you can't start before this date.
Mhm.
But again, in the past, if they say you can't start before September 4th, there's nothing stopping us from saying, well, we don't have ice till the 6th.
Mhm.
It's no different than in the past that we've been fortunate that we have the capacity and we have the demand to do it, but there's other small centers that have to do their trials later because their rink's not in till, like, I remember before we got this one, Norwood was never in until after the fair.
Yeah.
We used to go to Havelock and then you came here.
Thank you for your input. That made it easier to, move forward with what the recommendations are, for sure.
Counselor Hodgkrees.
Through you, thank you for a really very detailed report, Seamus. I think the expenses and the revenues, Deputy Mayor Burt said it's a wash, and I also agree, it seems heartless to have these tryouts in the spring for parents committing their kids to a season of hockey. I think sadly, it's eroding what I think should just be fun, and I think, but that's not a discussion for here, but it's a disappointing way that this seems to be going, but if we can support our skaters and the hockey organization, I think it's good. And I've watched the ice go in August, and that is quite the feat. So pushing it out might not be a bad thing if it's not as hot. And we did all survive skating after the fair and all of that. So definitely a balance and discussion for probably another time. But thank you for your detail.
Counselor Walsh.
Yeah, just lean in on it as well. I just have a few comments. One, I think we are in unprecedented times. And we share the great wisdom of wanting to let kids play all over the country. I don't understand, but again, that's a conversation for another day. But I do fear not wanting a child or a parent in our town not have the opportunity to try out here first.
Right.
Because the fear is if we were not to do this, we could lose one team. Could lose a couple teams, and then that's revenue that we've already kind of banked on heading into the end of 25 and 26. So I think there's, we've got Durrell, for example, that have gone to Calford. I'm not sure how much of a contract they signed. We may get some of these back, which may add on the revenue side for us by doing this. I like the idea of starting a week or maybe even 2 weeks later in the fall. So we do have that balanced approach of not needing to start as early in the fall, because if they have the tryouts already, at least at the rep level, there may be less demand to have to do that in the fall. I'm worried about the ball hockey. But I look at it and I go, okay, ball hockey is here for 8 weeks. Minor hockey is here for 7 months. probably our biggest user. And I would really not want to lose them, and hopefully we can work something out with the ball hockey group that they would stay here. The other consideration I would think would be, Seamus, is do we need the booth open?
So through your mayor, so that would be obviously up in the air. The one thing is during tryouts though, it is like a game. So for example, a practice night, for example, you have 15 people. Tryouts, your first trial, you could have 40 or 50, 60 people. And for tryouts, you tend to have grandma, grandpa, mom, dad come watch. So we're not committing to anything. But if there was a time where maybe it's opening partway, but that's the big thing for tryouts, I know, is using it here, for example, like a U18 practice. Some kids drive themselves. Their parents, I'm sorry, but you've probably lost interest in watching a practice.
Yes.
You're not watching. Versus tryouts again, and now with the new open borders, you could have more of mom and dad are coming to watch Seamus play today. Oh, Seamus is the 30th best player out there. Now, maybe tomorrow, we're now going to Camelford because we have a better chance of making it. So it's gonna be very interesting that way, but I've assumed, but yes, that could be an option where we don't open it, we potentially open it for only.
And
So
I think,
hours?
Seamus, my, again, you know best because you manage that area, but it may be just a bit of trial and error.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, we try it. It's like, okay, we're not getting mom and dad and grandma here, we're just getting kids. Or we're not getting a big crowd, and we decide, again, I know you got, from a scheduling standpoint, you gotta give people time to let them on or off, but. I would say just be efficiently as you can in the booth. If you don't feel it's worth being open on, it's not.
CAOL,
So, through you, Mayor, one of the things we're gonna talk about on Friday, Councilor, is that topic, is that event, we have made a change to come back, you guys to look at. And I suspect this is all, that will tie in nicely to this conversation.
okay, good. Any further questions, comments? All right, council. They have a recommended motion that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information, and further the council provides direction to staff on which option they would like to proceed. Councilor Wall,
With an addition, so it would be option 2, we extend the ice rental season until May 10th. With the added option of starting date in the fall. Can we just simply say to be confirmed?
yeah, I would go with that.
Because we'll
Yes.
kind of know best. Through everybody, user groups, whether we need, with the intent to at least save a week.
Exactly. Is that fair? Deputy Member, second that. Further comment? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you, Amos. Moving along to R6, the management action list, CAO, Alan, please proceed.
So, through you, Mayor, just two pieces I wanted to highlight here. The one is for the budget meeting on Friday, which you guys will make official in just a couple minutes. But there is some conversation with the clerk is talking about what location might be best.
Yes,
So that one's. The other one I wanted to highlight was we had originally had planned to have the asset management plan brought to this meeting. We did not get the draft report from the consultant until late Friday. So we've already had conversation with them. We're going through it now. We'll be getting any feedback back to them. It will be here for April 8th and April for the presentation. Once that's approved at council, then we can submit it to the province.
April 8th.
So those are the two highlights that I had. Any questions? I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions or comments, council? All right, thank you, Alan. Council may I get a motion to accept this report. Councilor Hodgegreaves, Councilor Ward, all in favor? Motion is carried. Correspondence for action. What's council's wish with respect to C6, the landlord tenant reforms? Helen of Broadford, West Windward. Deputy Member.
Receive.
Motion to receive. Councilor Ward, seconder. Any comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. C7 Municipality of East Ferris. On US tariffs by local. Councilor Walsh.
I receive and support.
Receive member support and seconder, Councilor Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Another one on, US Terrace by local was C8, municipality of Essenac, I guess it is. Deputy Mayor Burt,
Support as well.
motion to support. Councilor Roar, motion to support. This is almost the same motion, content. All in favor? Motion's carried. Council liaison reports. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring forward? Councilor Watt.
Just one thing, our Peter Robinson kickoff, was March 18th. It was well attended both in the morning and in the evening. Thank you for everyone who supported, especially for staff. That would help raise the flag and, some of the, promotional materials that we handed out. It was a really nice evening, and we have a meeting planned this Saturday for doing the displays at the Heritage Center. And then on April 15th, that's our next slated talk with Cheryl Levy. And it will be, again, Peter Robinson bicentennial themed. It will be the settlers' perspective from being here in Asphodel-Norwood. And that's at the Norwood Town Hall. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
And time,
7 p.m. at the Norwood Town Hall on April 15th.
Deputy Mayor Burt.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Peterborough County, last week, we had our first county watershed plan, phase 1, presented to council. It was just more of a background info, getting all the information and so showing next steps. So that'll be coming forward. So I think the next one, I'll be sure to get that link to you and then you'll get a better look at it. There wasn't a lot of detail in it this time, but the project has started, and also the community paramedic enhancement. We voted to have some additional staffing. It's 100% provincial funding and 3 more paramedics. And I believe it was 2.5 admin staff, and that's for that community paramedics where they go into homes. And fantastic program. I hope the province never drops it because it is making a huge difference in communities. So that will be happening, and that funding actually ends March of 2026. So hopefully there's some lobbying going on around that to keep that, because it's so important. And then I'm on the Source Water Protection Committee. We have a meeting here on Thursday, but there is a new webinar that will be coming out in April, and I'll send that link to our clerk, and it's on private wells, and they do them every year. The first one is on well maintenance and safety, so I'll send those links to you, and then they can be put up on social media. I think it's good. Most of us have our own wells, but I think it's important for people who move from the city and to the rural areas. You know, a lot of times they don't know where their water comes from, so I'll send that link off to our clerk. So thank you.
Just to further on the paramedics, it is a great program, especially when it keeps people out of the hospital. And they got to look at that before they even think of cancer. Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
On March 4th, I did attend a meeting of Special Events Committee, but there wasn't quorum, so it didn't happen. We had a brief chat, but there's nothing to report because nothing could be decided.
All right, Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, just the Business Advisory Committee. I know we even chatted at council about grand openings. So we actually did have one on Sunday. It was the Urban Roots 47 Spa, which is on Highway 7. Used to be a laundromat in there one time, but awesome spa. She's selling cosmetics, pedicure, manicures. There's a hairdresser there. You can do various types of massage. So she's got a little shop beautifully set up. So we had a cake. There's a cake there. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony, and I sent pictures off to Prudence this morning, and we'll end up doing, I'm sure, a brand spotlight on them, or a business spotlight on them at some point on our social media. Yeah, it was good.
Yesterday I was at the OPP meeting. They're starting to go along a little better now. We've even talked about quarterly meetings. I don't know if it was a special events committee or the BAC. Committee had requested for the golden helmets to come.
It was special events.
They should have knocked out the weekend that they are proposing to come because it's a Saturday of their weekend. And I was talking to Paul Quinlan today and he says, we do not have an area that size for them. I do remember on the special events committee, they were talking of even doing a section on 45 highway.
The date they proposed in special events was in June, not October.
Well, this.
Yeah.
Gaziano told me it's for Fair Weekend. I said,
Can't.
you haven't
It-
even looked at the logistics that you'd have to go through.
That
for
was not,
CAOL.
So through you, Mayor, the date requested was June 28th.
Why would they say that?
Can't do
Because
the fair.
we had originally talked about potentially something on Canada Day, and they advised us that was not a date that was available. We had picked that date because it was the closest date to Canada Day. We had never had any conversation about anything in October.
Okay, because he mentioned to me, I will call Chris as soon as this meeting's over and tell him that's a no right off the bat. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see them. I know the public would, but not that weekend. I said to him, I said, do you realize last year there was over 27,000 people come into the village? And you think you're gonna be able to put a show on? No. That's pretty much that. Lori had mentioned about the county stuff. No other, we do have a little bit to discuss, and that would be the council meeting and budget considerations on March 28th. Where and when, council? Pardon me? That's general business. We just finished the liaison. I think so. Anybody else has anything else to bring forward? No? So general business, because I'm bringing up first about the council meeting, where and when. Problem is here, you have because it dates. Town hall from 10 to 12 is being rented out, which is fine. Gives us an hour setup time. At the arena here from 9:30 till 11:30 and 12:45 to 2:45 is St. Paul's School. I think it'll be sort of noisy in here with the kids.
Three at the town hall.
I think the town hall is the best, if that works with everyone. Okay, so that's that meeting looked after. And general business. Does anybody else have anything to bring forward? Give me back. Need a motion? Okay. Can I have a motion that the meeting for the budget consideration of March 28th on Friday be at the town hall at 1 p.m. Councilor Hodge Greaves. Deputy Mayor Byrd, in favor, motion's carried. Any other general business to bring forward? None? Okay. We do not have a closed session today, but we do have a notice of motion from Deputy Mayor Byrd. We have a seconder for a motion to direct staff to review and amend the township's procurement policy bylaw 2019-46 to incorporate the provisions for local, provincial, and national procurement with the goal of supporting the local and national economy in response to the impact of the U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. Councilor Walsh will second that. Any discussion, councilors? Deputy Member?
Just a comment, and I didn't pull the procurement policy, so I didn't go over it, but I know the county is also working on one, and there's a draft, and it's always good to borrow. So, and I realize like software is going to be probably impossible. Heavy equipment is like, I think we all realize that we are going to try to do the best we can do, so I'll just throw that in there.
CAO Allen, go.
So through you, Mayor. A number of municipalities are looking at this right now, so yeah, we're not gonna reinvent the wheel.
No.
We're gonna go out and
No.
we're gonna find the one that we think fits best for us, and then, so yeah, this shouldn't, there are some challenges because there are some other regulations and rules,
Exactly, yeah.
agreements that have been made.
Yeah.
But there's so many people, so many municipalities doing this right now, I don't think it'll be that tough for us to get something that happens.
Any further comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving along to bylaws. The clerk to read these.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. That the bylaw to regulate the speed of motor vehicles within the township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-17.
Deputy Mayor, or sorry, Councillor Ward and Councillor Walsh. Before I call the vote on this, I would just like to ask this question. Has anybody had much feedbacks from the village residents before we go ahead and pass this bylaw? Councillor Ward.
Yes, I've had some people comment on it in a positive way. Good positive comments.
And I actually had one that, they'd heard that we were trying to do that on Highway 7, and I said, no, we are not
No,
trying to do that on
no.
Highway 7, so. That's the only comment I have.
Yeah, I did speak to a couple of residents that had some concerns about and a lot was just around enforcement, and we all realize that the OPP can't be here every day, but I think it sends a message that we want people to slow down. That's ultimately, I think, what this bylaw will do,
Right.
is try and send a message. Yes, there will be people that will exceed that, and there won't be an OPP officer here to stop them, but it's trying to send a message to people, just please slow down.
Right. And I've had the same comments. I've had three people total that think it's ridiculous, that it should be left higher. I don't understand it. I do realize it can say 30 kilometers an hour and people are gonna exceed that. We have signs right now that say 50 kilometers an hour and they're exceeding that. And as Councillor Walsh said, to have the OPP here all the time to enforce it is very hard until we can afford cameras that go up and maybe we can make some revenue off these speeders. Then it would be a different thing. But right now, I'm in favor of this motion and I'll ask for. We have a mover and seconder, first reading, all in favor?
And the confirming bylaw, that the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood held March 25, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-18.
Councillor Walsh, Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? This motion's carried. And your future meeting schedule is there, council? Does anybody want to comment on anything on it? No? I'll now ask for a motion for adjournment and the time is 2:07. Councillor Hodge Greaves. And Councillor Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried.